This video is one in a series of videos about how to use the newspaper in instruction. In our videos, we use News for You, a weekly newspaper published by New Readers Press and written for adult literacy and ESL learners. This activity is called Listening for Vowel Sounds. In this activity, we'll be working with adult literacy students to recognize vowel sounds in words, and then connect that sound to the different ways it can be spelled. This activity is also useful for ESL students. We'll begin by reading the story. If the story is too difficult for students to read, you can begin the lesson by reading to them, like you see here. After reading the story to students, I would use techniques such as echo reading or choral reading until the students are familiar with the story. Once students are familiar with the story, I'll review the vowel sound and then have students listen for that sound as I read the story. Then we'll talk about the spelling patterns that we see. Okay, class, so today we're going to do some work out of a newspaper. And so you have a newspaper in front of you. We've been talking about the long E sound. So we're going to read a newspaper story and then we're going to look for words that have the long E sound in it. Okay, so I'd like for you to open your newspapers to the story, Notre Dame's Bees Live Through Huge Fire. And it's kind of in the middle of your paper. There's a guy in a white shirt. Okay, looks like everybody's got it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read the story to you. You can try to follow along in your paper if you want, or you can just listen. Okay? Okay. I'm going to start with the title. Notre Dame's Bees Live Through Huge Fire. The world watched in horror last month as Notre Dame burned. Notre Dame's bees make about 165 pounds of honey each year. It is sold to Notre Dame workers. Okay, so what was this article about?
So it was about Notre Dame's fire and how the bees survived.
That's right. The bees stayed alive. They didn't burn. And why were there bees at Notre Dame to begin with? So as I've said, we've been learning to recognize the long E sound. You guys remember what the long E sound sounds like?
E.
Very good. It just, the letter says its name. Mm-hmm. So what I want to do now is I'm going to read back through the article, and I'm going to read it sentence by sentence, and I want you to listen to see if you hear any words with a long E sound. If you do, I want you to tell me what that word is, and we're going to make a list, and then we're going to look at all the different ways that the long E sound can be spelled. Okay, and we're going to see if we can find some patterns, and that'll help us with our spelling when we write. Okay, so let's start with the title. Notre Dame's Bees Live Through Huge Fire. Any long E sounds in that?
Bees.
Bees. And how is it spelled?
With two E's.
Two E's. All right, so we're going to write E-E. Draw a line under there, and we'll write bees. Very good. All right, next one. The world watched in horror last month as Notre Dame burned. Any long E sounds in that one?
Well, you said the, but it's also pronounced the.
That's right, it can also be pronounced the. And if we pronounced it as the, how would that long E sound be spelled?
Just one E.
Just one E. All right, so we're going to write E, and we'll write D up here. Very good, good catch. Okay, next sentence. The huge Paris cathedral is 850 years old. Any long E sounds in that one?
The word years.
Years, very good. And how is the long E sound spelled in years?
E-A.
E-A, and we'll write years. Very good. Any other ones in that? The huge Paris cathedral is 850 years old.
Cathedral.
Cathedral, very good. And how is the long E sound spelled in cathedral? It's in the middle of the word.
Just with one E.
Just with one E. Right, so let's write that up here. C-A-T-H-E-D-R-A-L. Any other ones?
There's also 850, but it's numbers.
It's numbers, that's right. But if you listen, 850 ends in a long E. So if we were spelling that word out, 50, how would that end?
With just a Y?
With a Y, very good. And I'm just going to write the word 50 because that's the one that ends in Y. Okay, let's read the next sentence. It is famous around the world. Okay, so these are all the words you guys identified out of that story. Great job. Anything you notice about the words and the different ways to spell the long E sound?
Well, the lists for EE and EA are way longer than the other lists.
Okay, good observation. So actually EE and EA are the two most common ways to spell the long E sound. So if you were trying to spell a word that you knew had the long E sound in it and you didn't know how to spell it, guessing EE or EA would most likely be correct. So just when you're writing and you're trying to spell a word, remember that. You've got a good chance of getting it right. Anything else? What else do you notice?
I noticed the long E sound, the Y makes the long E sound, and it usually is at the end of the word, and sometimes it's just the Y, but sometimes there's other letters with it.
Right, good catch, good catch. So when you hear that long E sound at the end of a word, it's going to be spelled with a Y. And sometimes we just put the Y on the end of the word, just tack it on. Sometimes we might have to, depending upon how the word ends, sometimes we might have to tack on an E or something along with it. So, but good observation. So again, kind of if we're trying to spell a word and we hear that long E sound on the end, it's going to be a Y, more than likely. So let's take your observations and let's write some rules for spelling. So I'm going to write rule 1. Let's see. When it's the spelled with just an E, when last sound of a syllable. So we're going to create a couple of rules or a few rules to help us with our spelling, and then we'll be able to kind of have a good idea of how to spell words that we don't know. For beginning students, you may just want to focus on listening for the vowel sounds in words. However, if students are starting to write, they may become frustrated with spelling. Using words generated by this activity to talk about spelling patterns can help them feel more confident in their writing and spelling.